Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, we're making my version of a lift and reveal box. The outer box is 4 inches across and it's 3 inches deep and 3 inches high. If we lift the lid, there is another box attached to the lid, which is triangular like so. So you need to bear in mind you haven't got a box which is 4 by 3 by 3 to put your gift in. It's effectively going to be halved because of the shape of this. But this box opens like so, room inside for your treats, and then in the base we have a gift card which, if we pull that up, that's hinged and attached to the base, and then you can access the gift card like so. So an additional surprise in the bottom of the box. A couple of things that I'll just point out before we get into putting the box together. I've chosen to have the lid flap so that it tucks inside. If you want to have it on the outside, you will obviously have to come up with some other type of closure mechanism. I was originally going to have this on the outside, but it's actually too narrow for the hook and loop dots that I have. So you could, if you wanted, you might want to make where you see this piece is a 1/2 inch, you might want to adjust the cardstock accordingly so that you could have a longer tab at the front. And another thing that I'll mention, because I have only made one of these and hindsight is a wonderful thing, when you come to cut the lid for the triangular box, my recommendation would be to cut it longer so that the flap can actually sit on the outside and be secured on the outside of the box like so. So you would have a longer section here than the 1/2 inch, and I would use some hook on loop or some other type of closure to keep this outer flap in place. And the only reason I'm saying that is because depending on what you're going to put inside this triangular section, particularly if you're going to put lots of loose elements that might roll around, you may find that as the box closes and opens, your tab here, which was originally on the inside of the box, might actually pop out, and you will end up with the contents in the base of the box, which is obviously what you don't want. Alternatively, you could have some ribbon closure, for instance, so that this does tuck in, and you could maybe have a piece of ribbon stuck on the front, a piece of ribbon which comes from the back, and it comes round across the top and then ties. So there are ways if you want to have your tab sitting in, but just be mindful of what it is that you're going to be putting in the box. The project does come together easily, so let's put it together. We'll start by making the box element, and this is made up of 2 pieces of cardstock. The first is 9.5 by 7.5. Along the long side, we're going to score at 1/2, 3.5 and 6.5. Rotate with the 1/2 inch tab at the top. On the short side, score at 1/2 and 3.5. And then for the second piece of the box, you'll have a piece which is 7.5 times 6. Along the 7.5 inch side, score at 1/2 and 3.5. Rotate. 1/2 inch tab is at the top and scores straight down the middle at 3 inches. So these 2 pieces are going to be glued together to form the 4 sides of the main box element. Take the largest piece and we're going to fold and burnish. You'll have your 1/2 inch tab along the top and to the left hand side, and we're going to start by cutting up the vertical score lines within the bottom section up to the horizontal. So this is creating the base element of the box, and then we can cut up the left hand score line, rotate and remove the rectangle and just take a wedge from the end of that glue tab at the same time to shape that glue tab. Keep your piece in this orientation. We're going to completely remove the whole bottom left hand corner section. rotate, and we're now going to remove the rest of this, and we want to cut this as straight as possible because this is going to be effectively the lid of the box. So that's our first piece. So we've got the lid, 2 of the sides, and then 2 of the base elements. I'll put that to one side. I'm going to bring in the second smaller piece, and again we can fold and burnish with the 1/2 inch glue tab on the left hand side. We're going to again cut up the 2 verticals up to the horizontal to create the bottom tabs for the box. Rotate. I'm going to remove this rectangle and cut a wedge at the same time, and then take a wedge from this end. So that's our 2 side pieces, and I can see on this big piece I forgot to take a wedge from the glue tab, so I'm going to do that now. So these are our 2 box pieces. We're now going to glue them together to create our 4 sides of our box by adding glue onto the glue tab here and joining the piece together like so. And now I'm going to fold over this right hand section, add glue to the glue tab here, and pull this across to form the 4 sides of the box. So there we have our box. Fold it upside down, so we're going to work on the base. So I'm going to glue the base together. I'm going to start by adding glue onto this side. Now if you don't want the 2 smaller tabs to overlap, you can obviously trim these if you so wish. So that's going to fit in there. I'm going to then, the front of my box is towards the back here, so this is going to be the last tab that I'm going to put down. We can flip the piece over, push back the lid, and just go in with your ruler or your score tool and just burnish that down. Give that glue a chance to spread and to grab. So that's the main element of our box. We're next going to make the reveal element, which is going to sit within the lid. For the reveal box, you'll need 1 piece, which is 9 3/8 times 5 1/2 along the 9 3/8 inch side. Score at 2 3/4. Rotate 180 degrees and score at 2 3/4. And on the short side, score at 2 3/4. Fold and burnish. Have your piece in the landscape orientation and fold your piece in half along the centre score line. Make sure that your piece is sitting square. So I'm just going to re-burnish that so that it is all lined up. Now you want to use your ruler and stylus or your scoreboard if you have a track marked on your scoreboard, which I do have the 6 inch track mark. If you think you can score through both pieces of cardstock at the same time, you can do it this way. If not, I will show you the orientation that the score lines need to be. So I'm going to score in this right hand square diagonally from this top left hand point here down to the right hand point here. So I've got the top of that score line in the 6 inch track and the bottom corner in the 6 inch track, and I'm going to score like so. So my score line has gone through both sides. If yours doesn't go through both sides, this would be the score line that we've just made. You'll then need to rotate your cardstock so that your next score line is running so that your point meets here diagonally within this bottom square. So you would score like so. So you want both ends to have this triangular arrow effect on the end. So I'm going to fold it back again. I'm now going to score on this side. So from this top of this score line here across to this point here. My fold is here. This corner is in line with the 6 inch track, and I'm going to rotate until the end of this score line is in line with the 6 inch track, and again I'm going to score. So you might want to do that this way, or you might want to do it while the piece is flat, but whichever method you use, you want to make sure the end two squares on the left and on the right have this arrow effect, with the arrow pointing towards the outer edge. Remove your piece from the scoreboard, bring in your trimmer or your guillotine, or you can use your scissors, but we're now going to create a lid flap within the top left and the top right hand squares. I'm going to use the score line as my guide and line my score line up with the 1/2 inch track on my trimmer, and I'm just going to cut 1/2 inch away to create this tab. I'm going to do the same at the other end in the top square. This is how our piece looks. Let's fold and burnish along the score lines in the top left and right hand sections. And these are just going to be supports for the lid, as it were. We next want to take our scissors. I've got the shaped section on the left hand side. I'm going to cut up this central vertical score line to the horizontal. So I'm separating these two pieces like so. I'm going to just move that one out of the way, and now I'm going to cut along the score line diagonally across this square. So from corner to corner, using the score line as my guide. So your end section will be separated. You'll have one with this 1/2 inch on it, and this end will be cut across. I'm going to rotate and repeat that at this end. So that's our piece. So we're now going to glue this piece together. I'll just demonstrate how this piece is going to come together. So these two pieces will come up. This back will come up to form the back and the base of the box. And then these two pieces are going to come around. They will be adhered with glue on here and here, and then the tabs or the lid flaps are going to come across like so and just create a support for the lid. So we can put that into place. You might want to work on one at a time or do them both at the same time. I'm going to add glue onto this triangle, pull this side around, push the inner triangle up. It should fit inside the triangle underneath it. You can see, burnish that into place, and then we're going to do the same on this one. So that's the base of the inner box. So we now want to create the lid. I'm starting with a piece which is 5 inches times 3 7/8 of an inch, and along the 5 inch side I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. Fold over the 1/2 inch score line, and I'm just going to take a wedge from either end. Now, because we're working on a slope, as it were, I want to make sure that I put the second score line in, which is going to be for the tab, which is going to fit inside the box, in the right place. So I'm going to bring in my triangular box and sit the 1/2 inch tab, which is effectively going to be the hinge for the lid, inside the back like so. So we can see how that is going to fit in there. I'm going to just hold it at the top, bring the lid across the top, and just mark with a pencil where the cardstock meets the end of the box. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's a triangle, it's slightly over the full inch. It wasn't even quite a 1/16. So where my lid is going to fit inside the end of the box, I'm going to just mark that with a pencil like so. So I'm going to line my pencil line up with one of the track. Make sure everything's running vertically. So this is our lid flap. I'm going to take a corner off like so, and I'm going to test everything before I glue it. So I'm going to sit the hinge in the back where it would be glued, put the lid flap down, and just check that that is going to fit in, which that does fit in nicely. into the box. So I'm going to glue this together, add glue to the glue tab. So that's going to sit in there nicely. That is going to sit in there like so. Now, before I stick the triangle in, I'm going to add in the gift card holder at the bottom. So the first thing you might want to do is add some pattern paper into the bottom if that's the route that you want to go down. So let's make that now. My gift card holder, and in fact the whole box, has been sized to fit one of these credit card size gift cards, and it's going to be a very simple hinged pocket. So you might want to watch this, and then you might want to change up what your gift card is in at the bottom. And I'm using pattern paper, and this piece is 7 3/4 times 2.5. Along the 2.5 inch side, score at 1/2 inch, and along the long side, score at 3 5/8. Rotate 180 degrees and score at 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish. You want to have the 1/2 inch glue tab at the bottom and on the right hand side. We're going to remove the bottom right hand corner and take a wedge from either end of this side 1/2 inch tab. We're going to cut up the next vertical score line up to the horizontal. So we're just going to split this section into two, like so. Rotate, our glue tab is at the top, and we're going to completely remove this bottom 1/2 inch section here. So this is a really simple pocket, as it were. So this is the bare bones, as it were, of our gift card holder. I'm going to use my circle punch just to create a finger notch. So I'm cutting it into the section which is next to the glue tab. So we can now glue this piece together. So tuck that and pull this piece around so it will be unsealed at the bottom. Now I'm going to bring it in the base of the box. So by now you want to have added the pattern paper into the bottom. I'm coming back to sticking the gift card holder in, and you will see that I've already stuck my lid in, which you won't have seen me do yet. But as I've shut the box, what I've realised is the orientation that the gift card holder has been stuck in means that the box is catching on it as it lifts up. So what you need to do is, I'm going to add some more glue onto here. You need to attach the gift card so that it's sitting against the back of the box. So down like so. So this is the front edge of the box. So the gift card needs to be towards the back. And what that means, it means as this box lifts up, it's not catching on the gift card at all. Now, if you haven't cut the notch, you might want to maybe put some ribbon so they can use that to pull this forward to then get the gift card out, because the person needs to be able to get their fingers in to actually get this open. So the last thing to do before we start the decoration is add in our box. If I hold the box in this orientation, so this section here is the back. So I'm going to add glue to that. Now we have made the width and the depth of this box slightly narrower than the outer box side, so it should fit and slot in there nicely. Let's turn this around. So I'm going to sit this in the middle of the lid, in line or just above the score line, like so. This is the front opening of the box. I'm going to just flip it up like this so that I can now burnish this, the back of the box, down onto the inside of the lid. So make sure it's sitting equally and straight. Try not to move anything as you burnish. So now our internal box is adhered. That comes down, rotates inside like so. The front flap will come down like so. The box opens, lift the lid, and the internal box now comes up and down without catching on the gift card at the bottom. All we need to do now is add our pattern paper. Here's the piece now with the pattern paper on the outside. I'll give you the measurements. For the lid of the outer box, I've used a piece which is 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. and the sides of the outer box are 3 3/4 by 2 3/4 and 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. For the internal lid, which obviously lifts up like so, for the lid section I used a piece which was 3 5/8 by 3 5/8. The base, which I also chose to cover, was 3 5/8 by 2 1/2. And for the sides I cut squares which were a 1/16 under 2 1/2 times a 1/16 under 2 1/2, and then cut these diagonally across to get the triangles. Overall, I'm really pleased with how this box has come out. So there we have today's project, my take on a lift and reveal box. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.